Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, it's Thursday, December 1st. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. San Diego's first ever vacation rental licenses have fallen short of a new city-imposed limit, meaning that a planned lottery will no longer be necessary. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says the one exception is Mission Beach.
Licenses are still mandatory, but a lottery for the majority of San Diego short-term vacation rentals will no longer be happening. The reason why, according to the city, is they fell well short on the number of applications. In a statement, they said, as of November 29th at 5 p.m., the number of Tier 3 applications received was less than half of the maximum licenses allowed. Paul Becker is president of Blue Water Vacation Homes, a San Diego company that manages vacation rentals. He says all of his homeowners applied.
If this is something you've been doing for years, which most of my owners have been, and this is a way that they can keep their home and use it when they need to, but they'll still generate revenue, which they do, why wouldn't you apply?
Mission Beach received more applications than its individual limit of 1,100 licenses. Those applicants will learn the outcome of their lottery no later than December 16th. Matt Valenti of Save San Diego Neighborhoods suggests that the low number of overall applicants is because many people may not want to follow the new regulations.
If all of those other vacation rentals that continue to operate illegally without a license, if they aren't shut down, then it's going to send a pretty clear message that the ordinance is not enforceable.
Some estimates suggested that the city of San Diego had up to 16,000 short-term vacation rentals, so the relative lack of applications is a striking contrast, according to Becker. He thinks the estimates may have been miscalculated, but still expects some more applications to come in.
The reason why you wouldn't apply was if you were scared you weren't going to get a license, or you moved back into the home, or you decided to long-term rent it, or you didn't want to pay the $1,000 fee.
The city of San Diego says within the next 2 weeks, they will reopen the application process until the citywide cap of just over 5,400 whole home short-term rentals is reached. Starting May 1st next year, all short-term rental hosts will need a license to operate legally in the city of San Diego. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Home prices are dropping in San Diego almost as fast as anywhere else. That's according to new analysis by SP Case-Shiller. It reports prices fell 2.1% from August to September. Only Las Vegas, Phoenix, Seattle, and San Francisco saw larger declines. Still, the median price for a local single-family home is $900,000. New signs the U.S. economy might be on the upswing. Prices at the pump continue to plunge, and a key measure indicates inflation might be peaking. Gloria Pazmino breaks down what this means for you.
Economic relief may be on the horizon. A key measure of consumer prices slowed down in October, according to a report from the Commerce Department released Thursday. It's a sign that inflation may be cooling, and that's good news for your wallet.
Prices for things like clothes, television, and appliances are going down. That's good news for the holiday season.
The Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, or PCE, rose 6% in October compared to the previous year. The measure is the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation tracker because it provides a fuller picture of consumer prices. Lower gas prices could also bring some relief to budget-strapped households. According to AAA, a gallon of regular gas is now selling for $3.47 nationally. It's the first week since February the national average has fallen below $3.50 a gallon.
Gas prices are down about $1.52 per gallon since June, for a savings of $160 per month for American families with 2 cars.
Chairman Jerome Powell says the Fed could pull back on its pace of aggressive rate hikes as soon as this month, but he's still cautious.
We will stay the course until the job is done.
Gloria Pasmino, KPBS News.
Of course, California has some of the highest gas prices in the nation, but prices in San Diego County are now below $5 a gallon. The average price of regular gas dropped nearly 4 cents today to $4.94 a gallon. It's been steadily falling since reaching a record of $6.43 in early October. There will not be a national rail strike after all, and that's because Congress is stepping in. Today, the Senate advanced a bill that would force workers and rail companies to stick to a proposed settlement. The next step is the president's desk. Several unions involved in the discussions had refused to accept the offer. The Navy is taking a closer look at a close call on San Diego Bay this week. 2 warships, the USS Momsen and the USS Harper's Ferry, nearly collided Tuesday. This video from a webcam is sped up to see just how closely the 2 boats came to each other. In the end, there was no damage. The military says both ships were communicating by radio to avoid a potential crash. Solar advocates in San Diego and 10 other California cities are letting utility regulators know they don't like a proposed plan for rooftop solar. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson was there.
Protesters rallied under a cloudy sky as they expressed concern about the regulatory cloud they say is dimming the solar industry's future. The California Public Utilities Commission is considering cutting the economic benefits of installing a solar system, and that didn't land well with the community leader in Southeast San Diego.
We're in a climate crisis, and communities of concern are often impacted first and worst. Taking away access to clean energy right now is an atrocity.
The CPUC proposal did not include onerous grid connection fees, which created enough outrage last year to sink the commission's first proposal. But it does sharply reduce the value of rooftop-generated power.
It would slash the value of solar energy 75% overnight while boosting utility profits at the expense of the public starting next year.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
San Diego Gas and Electric officials haven't spoken publicly about the issue except in regulatory filings and hearings. Kathy Fairbanks works for the utility-funded group Affordable Clean Energy for All. She says solar subsidies are unfair.
The current program is structured so that primarily disadvantaged Californians, low-income seniors, renters, people who don't have solar, who don't have access to rooftop solar, are subsidizing benefits that flow primarily to wealthy Californians who own homes, who can afford to put solar rooftop panels on their homes.
Fairbanks thinks regulators need to put back fixed monthly grid access fees. Solar industry backers say thousands of jobs are at risk if the proposed rules are adopted as is. Regulators are expected to vote on the issue in mid-December. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
President Biden's student loan debt forgiveness program will remain blocked, at least for now. That was the decision from the Supreme Court today. But the justices agreed to hear oral arguments in the case in February, with a decision expected by June. Biden's program would offer up to $10,000 to millions of qualified borrowers, as well as an additional $10,000 to Pell Grant recipients. About 26 million people had already applied when a federal judge in Texas struck down the plan last month. Today is World AIDS Day. Since 1988, it has aimed to raise HIV awareness and remember those lost to AIDS. KPBS reporter Claire Strong was in Hillcrest today to see how San Diegans are marking the occasion.
As a gay man, as a Latino man, I've had peers in many segments of my life who have lived and died of AIDS. And so for me, this also has a very intimate meaning and impact.
The virus has taken a toll on Alberto Cortez's life. Today is a chance for him to honor the memory of those he's lost. Cortez runs Mama's Kitchen, which provides meals to people with HIV and AIDS. The organization is holding its annual candlelit vigil and tree lighting ceremony tonight at the Village Hillcrest Retail Center.
We will be selling these transparent ornaments, heart-shaped ornaments that people can purchase, write a message on them, on a loved one they've lost or somebody who's living with HIV, or to acknowledge somebody who's worked in the field.
In the developed world, new treatments have made HIV/AIDS a chronic illness rather than the death sentence it once was. But many of the more than 13,000 San Diegans living with the virus face other struggles. Topping the list is ever-increasing costs of living. Well, down the road in Hillcrest, another non-profit's working hard to support HIV patients struggling with poverty. Among other things, Being Alive runs a moving assistance program. Shannon Wagner is the executive director.
Most of our clients are forced to live at or below the poverty line in order to qualify for their medical care. You can't make more than $800 a month. So if you're stuck in that situation where you can make very little, it doesn't give you the extra money you would need to pay for more expensive rent, things like that.
Back at Hillcrest Retail Center, and preparations are almost complete for tonight's event. It begins at 6 p.m. and more than 100 people are expected to attend. Claire Strong, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, one-on-one with former Vice President Mike Pence. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A baseball Hall of Famer who pitched for the Padres has died. Gaylord Perry was 84 and was living in South Carolina. He played well into his 40s for 7 different teams. That includes the 1978 season with the Padres when he won his second Cy Young Award. Perry was also selected to play in the All-Star game 5 times in his career. The National Soccer Hall of Fame is looking to San Diego for 2 of its new inductees. Jill Ellis is being recognized for her work as a coach, which includes leading the U.S. women's team to 2 World Cup wins. She's now the team president for San Diego Wave, and she talked to KPBS Midday Edition about building on the success of their first season.
They'll be joining us shortly, and I think the end of January is when the players report back in for preseason. So it'll be here in no time, and in that short time, we're also trying to continue to grow our own footprint and build our fan base here.
Joining Ellis in the class of 2023 is former Team USA men's star Landon Donovan. He's now the manager and executive for the San Diego Loyal soccer team. Both will be formally inducted during a ceremony planned for May. Agriculture in California has been battered by drought and dwindling water supplies. New data reveals the state's farming economy lost $2 billion in revenue, along with 19,000 jobs in this past year. Reporter Madison Keevy shows us what a family farm in Sacramento is doing to stay afloat.
Processing walnuts gets loud. It's quite literally the sound of being steps closer to a payout.
You just never know what's going to happen. You just have to kind of go with the flow.
Desiree Silva is the VP of Business Operations for California Valley Nut Company. She has a front row seat to the ups and downs that come with farming during the driest 3-year period in the instrumental record.
Farmland coming out and other things being implemented. If you cannot afford to grow certain commodities on that property and it's easier to go a different route.
It's one of the reasons, according to a new report prepared for the State Department of Food and Agriculture, that farmland in California dropped by more than 750,000 acres, or shrunk nearly 10%.
We've got pipelines, we've got pumps, all to move that water around to keep agriculture resilient. But if there's no water, there's nothing to move.
I sat down with one of the authors at UC Davis to get answers. At the regional scale, the Sacramento Valley has faced the worst multi-year drought in decades. And the net water shortage for the Sacramento Valley doubled in 2022.
Farmers have been and the rest of the people in agriculture have been so resilient. They've been scrambling around trying to keep production where they could.
Drone 13 captured the changing landscape. Neighborhoods in Yolo County now mark where farmland once sat untouched. The resiliency outlined in the study called a willingness to diversify by Silva. Their family bought an ag spraying company to make up for lost revenue.
Is there something else that we should be doing so that way, we're making money and not losing money?
Chances for significant rain here in Southern California dwindling. There'll be a little bit of rain at times. That's in our headlines here. A couple of opportunities for some wet weather. We'll have one into tomorrow and then another one later on Sunday, but doesn't look like much will be falling here. We will have below average temperatures through the weekend into early next week, and we'll have some gusty winds, especially into the mountain regions on Friday. For tonight, we'll see plenty of clouds around. Our low in the city of San Diego down to 51 degrees. Surrounding areas rather cloudy tonight with our deep marine layer coming on in. 46 in Oceanside, El Cajon 48, Ramona at 43, and Borrego Springs 47. Now, the storminess we've been talking about dropping down from the north Thursday night into Friday. Notice dwindling returns on the future radar. So we're not looking for much precipitation here. Look what's left of that storm, just a couple of showers. That's about it, mainly in the interior sections near the mountains. But it will be cool, we can guarantee you that. Mid-60s Oceanside, Escondido, low 60s in Ramona, and El Cajon at 69, San Diego at 66. Saturday should be a drier day, but it stays cool. Next system drops in from the north. That could give us a shower or two on Sunday. So here's our extended forecast. Not much chance for any significant precipitation here near the coast. It stays cool as we head to the inland sections. Next chance for the shower comes in Sunday, a little bit milder Saturday. And then as we head into the mountains, a couple of showers around on Sunday and breezy into Monday. And in the deserts, it's generally dry, with temperatures here a little bit below average. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Campus shootings, computer security, and the COVID comeback. Tonight, members of school boards from across California are in downtown San Diego working on solutions. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has more from this largest state education leadership conference of the year.
Everything we've done has been built around safety.
James Holtz is selling safety and efficiency for the largest manufacturer of battery electric school buses in the world. He's a vendor at the annual conference of the California School Boards Association, pitching his product to more than 3,500 leaders, representing 1,000 districts and county offices of education.
Everybody else is implementing new technology on an old style. We had the capability to build the technology. We said, why do we have to build a bus that looks like it's from 1970?
These school board members face climate crisis problems as they work through the comeback from COVID that devastated their districts. They say 2 years of emergency funding from the federal and state government is barely a beginning.
That needs to be the floor upon which we build and not the ceiling, so we can't pull back, we can't retrench now just because we're emerging from the triage stage of the pandemic. We have a lot of student needs and we need to keep investing.
You want to fight? You want to war? Heated school board meetings is something just about every trustee in the state has experienced as they wrangled with mask mandates and remote learning limitations. Violence and harassment seems to have subsided.
What has not subsided is the parent involvement, the community involvement, because now they know that school board members in our communities, we need their involvement. We need to come together.
I'd rather have parents be angry and frustrated and come to meetings than be apathetic. They can't help with apathy.
Historically, the work of school boards has been about as local can be. But COVID changed all that, painfully uniting school boards like never before. Here in the San Diego Unified School District last month, voters overwhelmingly approved $3 billion in bond money. That money will go to school building improvements and teacher training. The district is also working on staffing shortages and mental health services for students and their families.
We're about meeting the needs of all of our children, not just those who are in La Jolla, in the affluent communities, but all of the children.
That is something that is the same in San Diego or a rural district outside Fresno, says Susan McCarrion, the association's incoming president-elect.
We need to be able to address their social and emotional, and having the service people that can help students understand that they're as safe as we can make them at school is a big part of that.
That safety could begin in one of these new battery electric school buses. MG Perez, KPBS News.
The lowest paid workers in Mexico are getting a raise in the new year. The government announced today that the country's daily minimum wage will increase by 20% on January 1st. It will go from around $9 a day to just under $11 a day. That works out to nearly $55 more each month. Along the border, where the minimum wage is higher, it will be about $16 a day. Mexico's president says the boost is meant to address the rising cost of goods. Maybe you've heard of shrinkflation and greedflation. Here's another one to add to your vocabulary: tipflation. Shoppers report seeing more and more tip requests in more and more unusual places. As Isabel Rosales reports, you might not be able to escape it while holiday shopping, even from home.
I actually prefer not to call it tipflation, but a tipping invasion.
It's the unwelcome shopping surprise that has social media buzzing.
18% gratuity is already included in the bill. Girl, it's water.
Tips, a staple of the service industry, now extending far beyond.
In the drive-thru, and they've been asking for a tip.
On TikTok, you'll quickly find folks aren't too pleased about it.
Ordering it online myself. It says, would you like to add a tip at the bottom? A tip? For what?
This is a little too crazy for me, and I refuse.
So what's the deal?
The wage moving I see becoming more widespread.
Professor Depayan Biswas has studied tipping for a decade. He says this new tipping trend started with the boom of digital kiosks. Then the pandemic, plus inflation,
added fuel to that fire.
More businesses allowing tips to make jobs more lucrative at your expense.
That's my biggest worry, that it might actually affect the industry where it really matters the most.
This is Mr. Manners.
The very concept of a tip is that we are rewarding a service employee who's being paid less than minimum wage.
Thomas Farley has a tip without hesitation list, and just 3 people make the cut: servers, bartenders, and washroom attendants.
I really wonder, where's the line? It is accelerated beyond all of our wildest nightmares.
To avoid tipping, pay cash. But if plastic is a must,
you need to own your position. You do not need to feel guilty about it.
There's power in saying no.
Now that's worth a tip.
Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
Prepare for some season's beatings as Santa takes on a group of mercenaries on Christmas Eve in the new film Violent Night. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando spoke with actor David Harbour about delivering a different kind of holiday cheer.
Actor David Harbour was a big believer in Santa Claus.
When I saw that plate of cookies and that milk drunk in the morning, those cookies bitten into, I really, as a kid, thought it was like DNA evidence. I was like, this is forensic evidence that Santa Claus actually exists.
17, take 3, off a mark.
Now Harbour is playing Santa.
You ain't driving, are you?
I steer a little, but the reindeer do most of the work. When we start the movie, he's like a saccharine version of himself. He's what everybody thinks he is. So he's kind of dopey and you know, in this big red suit and kind of, you know, fat with the beard and everything. And he doesn't know who the hell he is, really.
But when a little girl and her family are held captive by some naughty mercenaries, he's inspired to change.
I'm in a big room with all my relatives. There's 2 bad men with guns watching us.
But I get you out of there. What I found was really unique about it was you go on this wild action comedy ride, and then at the end, you come out with that Christmas movie thing of like believing in the spirit of Christmas.
If you could have anything in this world, what would it be?
You know, when I read the script, I got a little choked up about him and this little girl, like all the lengths he went to save her and how it made him believe in something larger than his self-pity had been. And I really like that.
But being an action Santa has its challenges, especially when it comes to fighting in a big red suit.
Go! I mean, yeah, it's harder than being in a superhero suit, although it is a version of his own superhero suit. But it's not built that way because the big old buckles in the front, there's lots of things it can catch. The worst thing was the beard and the mustache, though, because I couldn't grow my own. I had to wear, it's all fake. So there would be horrible, takes where I'd be wrestling with some guy, he'd punch me, and then you'd turn around and my beard would be hanging off.
Harbour throws himself into the role with gusto and wins us over with a Santa who's just having a very bad night.
Don't give up. You said these guys. They're naughty. And what do you do to the naughty ones?
I give them a lump of coal.
Harbour brings a lot of heart, but also a lot of carnage as he decks the halls with the blood of the naughty crooks in this R-rated holiday comedy. Think Die Hard, but with Santa as the reluctant hero taking care of business. And replacing Yippee-Ki-Yay. So basically, the perfect Christmas movie for action fans. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Never seen Santa like that before. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.